Australia's military has been called in to help enforce a COVID-19 lockdown in Sydney. Daily infections continue to break new records, nearly 240 infections in the past 24 hours.
We can only assume that things are likely to get worse before they get better, given the quantum of people infectious in the community.
300 troops and thousands of police will be deployed to enforce tougher measures. Restrictions have been tightened in 8 coronavirus hotspots. More than 2 million residents will be required to wear masks indoors. They must also stay within 5 kilometres of their homes. Sydney is 5 weeks into a lockdown that will run until the end of August. But many residents have been caught flouting the rules.
There's certainly a degree of fatigue coming into play now. It's been a month and we've got another month to go. But for the most part, I think the community out here is pretty resilient. We're a very strong community out here, and I think together we'll all get through.
Danielle Robertson joins us live. Danielle, police are getting tougher, but many still flouting the rules.
Yeah, I mean, for Sydney, this is a new stage in this pandemic, prompting the Army to be called in, for restrictions to be tightened and for fines to increase. For certain hotspot areas, people aren't allowed to leave a 5-kilometre radius. They have to wear a mask, even outdoors, or face a $500 fine. And people aren't allowed to visit households. That's citywide, and authorities will be knocking on doors to check. Now, the Army is expected to hit the streets this weekend, assisting police with this huge crackdown. But while these measures have been implemented slowly over the last few weeks, they don't really seem to be working. Today, Sydney recorded the highest rate of COVID infections ever, and that really indicates that people aren't following the rules as cases are continuing to climb. There is a growing anti-lockdown sentiment here, and people do seem to have stopped listening in some areas. But the Premier says that these strict restrictions are the only way that we can get to the other end. And she even said it's still going to get worse before it gets better, and people need to follow the rules so that we can get out of the grip of this Delta variant that's spreading across the city.
Well, frustrations are understandable. It has been, lockdown extension after extension for Sydney. What's the impact been on people and businesses?
Yeah, well, the big industry that shut down recently, the construction industry over the last 2 weeks, that was a huge blow to the state's economy. It's expected that will cost the state around $1.4 billion, and it affects around 250,000 workers. While that industry is expected to open again soon, there are still some challenges, particularly considering that a lot of the workers are still going to be in locked down areas. So the challenge moving forward for that industry is filling the gap. For small businesses, many are struggling to pay rent. Many are worried they won't be able to reopen and might have to shut down completely. So they are struggling. And overall, the New South Wales Treasury says that this lockdown is going to cost the state $850 million every single week. So that's a huge blow to the state's economy. As for the people, well, people here, they're really tired, and mental health is soaring. There's been a spike in calls to Lifeline, and mental health organisations say that people are struggling more in this lockdown than they have in any previous lockdowns in this state. People here are tired, they're frustrated, they're fatigued, and many are struggling now to see the other end. Australia's top medical experts, though, are meeting tonight for an emergency meeting to see how the rest of the country can help New South Wales get out of this deepening crisis.